I'm going to call this meeting to order of the Community Relations Committee. We, you guys got an email uh, from our board secretary talking about some of the things that are going to be priorities for this particular meeting. And we're going to start with item number one, which was sort of elevator pitches for the academies. I think that one of the things that we talked about, and Dr. Seelig, please feel free to jump in anytime here, because you've been part of these conversations.
Sure.
But basically, what we're looking to do is have an in-person session of the Community Relations Committee with Brent Dean, who is, our expert sort of on the academies and how to, um, what we need to do as committee members and really as board members is kind of come up with a way to talk about the academies with folks out in the community, whether they are, business owners, whether they are parents of students that are in school, whether they're community members. We need to understand and have, some ways to explain this model to people who are not familiar with it in a way that helps them better understand it and helps them understand the changes it can bring district wide to us. So, the thought process here is we would have a brainstorming session in person with Brent and sort of talk through some of these things and talk through some of the questions that some of us may have heard from folks out in the community as we've started this path. And we have two dates that are narrowed down. Mike, if I remember correctly, one of them is Monday the 17th, and the other is Thursday, June 27th.
Yes, I'm pulling up my notes here right now. I had those written somewhere, but I will confirm that in just 1 second, as soon as my screen pulls up here.
Hey, do we have anything from Nashville? Maybe they have some kind of already elevator pitch that we can probably tweak it to our level.
I absolutely think Brent does, and he has a lot of materials, and I think that'll be a big part of this session is sort of looking at kind of the way they've done it, but then also putting our own little unique Danbury spin on it. So, as Kate said, and I've gotten cornered, not cornered, but people have come up to me, I'm at, getting a sandwich or something just in the community, and say, what is this? What is this academy thing you guys are doing? Uh,
Right.
and you literally have that 30-second transaction while you're, paying for a sandwich or whatever. So, how do you make the most of that 30 seconds and to say it in a way that resonates with somebody in the community as opposed to, the way Nashville said it. So yeah, I think that's exactly the sort of thing we want to iron out in that session. 17th and the 27th I have here, Kate.
Okay. So I guess my question would be primarily to Al and to Mrs. Cooper right now, although I would welcome and encourage participation from other board members who are not necessarily part of that community relations committee. Um, which of those two dates fits for you? So Monday, June 17th at 6 p.m. or Thursday, June 27th at 6 p.m. And this would be at Beaverbrook.
For me, it'll be the 17th. It'll be good.
Okay.
Yeah, and then doesn't look like we have anything else going on that night. We have finance the day after, but nothing on the 17th.
Okay. So my position is let's pin down Monday, June 17th, and we will have um, a backup date if it turns out that we cannot make that work. But I know that date works for Brent as well. So it's really a question of, how many folks from our committee and from our board can be part of that conversation. Um,
Now, Kate, do you want this as an official meeting of the committee?
I think so, Mike. You said that date worked for you as well?
Yes.
Okay. In addition to that, what I'd like to do, and I will reach out to our recording secretary for this request, I'd like to have a Google Doc started so that we can, as committee members, as board members, start to throw information into that document about what we think about the academies, and what we understand about the academies, and any questions that have come from the community that have been about the academies that maybe we felt a little unprepared for. So my hope would be that between now and then, or when the document goes out from uh, Cara Pompano, that we could we will each make an effort to jump on that document and, you know, put some initial brainstorming thoughts on there, so that when we come into an in-person session on the 17th, we'll be able to sort of hit the ground running and have those conversation points ready to go. Do
I-
folks have any questions about that or other thoughts about it? Dr. Seelig, did you have something to add?
No, I think that's a great way to get it going. This way, once we get together, we don't, waste 20 minutes just kind of spitballing, and we can dive right in. The document will probably come from me, and the invite will probably come from Cara Pompano tomorrow.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Mike.
I just have a question. Would it, and I think it will also benefit us and board members that are not listening and at the meetings to have them participate in just what would it cost us to have them make a suggestion about questions that they have also heard, and then it can still be filtered through this committee. And then, because five of us is five of us, and you're the committee, but still there might be questions that board members have on their mind that they can filter through this committee, and at least we'll have their input too. It was just a thought. Inclusion.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the document and, sort of an overview of what we're trying to do is going to go out to the full board for participation. So thank you, Mrs. Cooper.
And I'll include a little synopsis in the document too, so everybody who's seeing it for the first time knows what they're seeing.
Okay.
All right. So that is item number 1. So it looks like we're doing June 17th, 6 p.m. in person at Beaverbrook. And we will work with Brent Dean on that, the Academy pitches. Item number 2 on the agenda here. Dr. Seelig, I think I might turn this over to you to sort of move the conversation forward,
Yeah.
and sort of talk about what we're trying to do here.
Thanks, Kate. So the idea here was, in previous community relations meetings, we'd all talked about finding just the various touch points that everybody has in the community. And again, this could be your child's soccer team that you coach. It could be the Rotary Club. It could be a bridge club. I mean, all the different places that we interface with the community. And what we wanted to try to do was come up with some sort of, master calendar that would really track these, and obviously wouldn't, have to go into the depths of, personal commitments, things like that. But, clubs, organizations, things that are sort of on the, on the, kind of public radar. So that if a board member, say, wanted to go and, and talk about the academies, or, maybe try to do some fundraising, they would have access to this calendar, and they could see all the different things that were happening on a Friday night. And Kate, as we talked about this, we realized that the mind share of this that the school district has is really limited to what is A, sponsored by us and put on by us, and B, what is simply just our facilities are being used for. So we have a rental calendar, and we know the Cub Scouts come in every week and they meet on a certain date. But beyond that, we don't really know what's going on, especially with, various youth sports and other programs. So we wanted to brainstorm some ideas about how we could kind of pull all these dates and calendars together. And, I think technologically we have the capacity to have a master calendar, but culling and going out and finding these things is where we're really challenged. And it's not like a one and done, right? So it's not like, we've gone out and we've got the calendars from these various organizations, because they continually change. There's new dates put on, there's new appointments, there's new practices, new schedules. So we wanted to just, kind of think out loud together about a way to pull this together. And, some of the initial ideas that we had were, like we said, to pull our rental calendar in so that we could identify the communities that were going to be, actually in the schools on a certain day. And we know we have, youth basketball and a few other programs, like I said, Cub Scouts. But beyond that, there's a few things that the city has on their calendar. There's certain groups that meet over there. We could work with them on a sort of download. And ideally, we'd get this in a sort of like an Excel CSV file, and then we could just upload it to the master calendar on our website, and it would be right there. And you'd be able to sort of click on, the different views that you wanted to see. What's a school-sponsored event? What's a community event? And so on. That's about as far as we were able to get. The real work now is in, how do we pull these together, and who knows where these things are sort of in the wild right now.
Yeah. And I think, there's the additional obstacle, Mike, just to piggyback on that a little bit, is that, um, we need to figure out a process like so that if we do make contact with someone in an organization that's providing information to us and there's a change in leadership or whatever, that we don't lose our connection to that group as as we're carrying this information forward.
Yeah, I
So,
think that, yeah.
go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
So I guess, there's a couple questions for the group here to talk about. Um, what do we want to brainstorm a list of organizations that we want to try to make contact with? In terms of putting the calendar together, we talked about it being an education slash youth focus. Um, it may be that we want to apply this to a separate calendar that might be more community specific events. I know that, there's like a men's club, there's a women's club, there's, uh, the Leo Club, the Elks Club, all these different organizations that exist in Danbury, um, where it would be a benefit for board members to have some connection and contact with them. So we might be looking at potentially as, two calendars that we're looking at to sort of contain this information.
Right.
Mike, can you talk a little bit about, you know, why, like how this could benefit the board to have this out there, and also how it benefits the community to have sort of a centralized calendar?
Yeah, I mean, I think, some of it, I touched upon, the idea that, if we recognize that, you know, for example, the earlier conversation we had about the elevator pitch for the academies, it's not clear that there's a general understanding of how these work and why they're a benefit, and fundamentally why they're worth the investment of, taxpayer dollars. We're doing something here that really is, presenting a new value proposition to the community about, why your taxpayer dollars, are should be going to this new program. It's a limited pot of money. What makes it worthy? And, and we have an incredible, thing here to talk about with the academy. Not a lot of districts in the Northeast are doing things that are this innovative. And, Danbury is really on the leading edge of this. How do we get that out into the bloodstream? How do we get, everybody to just understand intuitively, what that thing is? We have this building going up that you can see is literally you're driving past, the airport on 7 or, driving down 84. There's such an opportunity there to just have people look at that, and you actually, you're not just doing a little program tweak where you're saying, we're going to change the schedule of a kid at school. You actually have a new building, and there's such an opportunity here to just really have a culture change, a change in fundamental beliefs, the way that people think and talk about Danbury Public Schools. To miss out on that opportunity at this critical juncture, I just think would be such a shame. Because we're really turning the page. This is really a new era, in this school district. So if we don't seize upon this opportunity to get out there and, just, make sure everybody is hearing this and hearing the language of the academies and understanding what that structure is with the 7 academies, it's just it'll be a really missed opportunity that I think we'll be trying to recover from for years going forward. There's never an opportunity like this where you have literally new construction, a new, big, literally shining building on a hill. It's like it's kind of writing itself. That if we don't seize upon this moment here in the next 12 months to talk about all that's happening with it, and invite people up there to see it, we shouldn't have to be, defending this and explaining it, and in these granular details, at budget meetings. It should just be in the vernacular when we go in there and people say, oh, I see what you're doing. That's why you're going to need an additional $10 million.
Right. Thank you, Mike. And that's the whole point here is what we're doing with a calendar set up like this, or intending to do, is to create a series of opportunities for board members to be in these spaces so that as these conversations inevitably happen, there's somebody there who's positioned to have that conversation with people and sort of create dialogue around this sea change for the district.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And this body should be armed not only with, the language and, the elevator pitch and the 3 bullet points or whatever it is that we generate, when we sit down with Brent about how to talk about it, but also, if you want to get out there on the stump, here's a calendar of places you can go next weekend that, are willing to listen and engage in a conversation. And, maybe it's the Elks, maybe it's the Kiwanis, and maybe it's just the guy you're talking to at the deli who, knows you're on the board and says, what's going on with this place? So
I would say that, in the next probably in a month or so, there are a lot of community activities, a lot of diversity, cultural diversity celebrations going on in the city. Maybe we should consider putting a table at some of these locations and be there ready to answer any questions, and hopefully meeting those contacts to who is involved with the Kiwanis, or with the Lions Club and other organizations, or the Rotary Club and all that. I think that might be a start to go forward with that. But I think the cultural diversity celebrations is coming up within the next few weeks here in Danbury. I think that could be could be a start. It could even start on Saturday when when they have that activities going on Main Street Saturday afternoon. So it could start from there and move on into like on Sunday the Portuguese is Portuguese Day. So at the Portuguese Cultural Center they have a big festival out there that next week I believe it's the Greek festival. Okay, so all these organizations, they bring a lot of people into their festivities. And I think it might be an opportunity for us to set up a table and say, hey, be available to answer any questions, and maybe give out some handouts in reference to, the career pathways and get us started.
I was just going to say, we probably need some pamphlets or flyers or something to go
Right.
along.
And I would say, Mike, also, bilingual flyers, especially, Spanish, and if we can do a Portuguese, because there's a large Portuguese community too. So
Yeah.
again, that could be a start. It could be
Yeah.
a start for bigger and better things. So, if we want to do this, then maybe somewhere down the road and we hold some kind of a larger event. For example, maybe we want to create an art exhibition through some kind of youth talent show or something like that, where the kids can draw something and display it. We have enough schools that we can open up a gym or whatever it is and put it into a display and start that way. I don't know.
Gallery walk. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there are
Madam Chair,
definitely.
can I add something?
Mhm.
Hi, it's Ann. I'm in the car, so I apologize not being on camera. I know this weekend for the street fair, 12 to 6 downtown on Main Street, Brent Dean will have a table there for the academies, and I think a couple of us are joining. To Al's point about an art festival, we have CODA coming up at the high school either this weekend or the next weekend. I'm not
It's
sure
this
the date.
weekend.
Okay, so there's an opportunity. We have the Head Start Fair, a daytime program that's coming up next week during the week that will be there. We have events already, especially around the chronic absenteeism work that we're doing, that we'll be reaching out to these groups as well to speak to help them train to share the same message around chronic absenteeism. So I would welcome to work with this committee and board members to be able to come out and go with us to these events and share the information that we're talking about on this call.
Thank you, Dr. Mead.
You're welcome.
Julie, I see you've got your hand up here.
Yeah, I just want to add to what Dr. Mead says, because since last year, I'm pretty sure that by Parent Square, all these events are promoted through our Parent Square. And last year, I think that Danbury Public Schools was present on many of these events. What I believe that we're lacking is more interaction from board members, because I've seen Danbury Public Schools, employees or anybody interacting, but I don't see many board members standing at those tables, other than maybe at Rogers Park or many others.
Thank
That's
you,
it. I
Julie.
think that we should, try to at least be on some of those events. Not all of us, of course, but we can rotate.
Yes, good idea.
I agree. And I think, part of the thinking here is, as a board, we get a lot of information kind of piecemeal. We'll let know about 2 or 3 events here, and maybe there's an event over here and we get an email about this. One of the things that I was looking at in terms of this centralized calendar piece is, how do we make this like a tool that kind of cuts out some of the extra conversations that maybe board members feel a little bit bombarded by, so that they say, okay, like, here's the calendar and I can volunteer for this date and this date. And then, we know that person's going to fill in.
In the short term, Kate, what if we so Anne just rattled off 4 or 5 different things coming up between CODA and a few other events going on. Just so we don't get bogged down with the technicalities of it, let's just start a share doc of everything we know that's just coming up in the next few weeks. There's between now and the end of June, there's probably 30 different things between the moving ups and the graduations and the awards ceremonies. Let's just put those on the calendar, and anybody who wants to sign up for one can just put their name on it. And then in the background, we'll be working on these elevator pitches. I'll work with my team on putting together some collateral, pamphlets, brochures. We'll just have stacks of them at BBAC, and if you're going to an event, come by, or just keep a stack in the trunk of your car, and and when you go into one of these, you just go in, with everything you got. And then as it sort of evolves, we can figure out, whether there's more technical component of the calendar and all that. So
sorry, I can't see if anyone's raising their hand, but if not, I do
Go
have
ahead,
a
Kara.
suggestion. Sorry. I was just thinking about, the need to have that sort of internal event calendar, that DPS sponsored stuff, which would be great, because I there's so much happening. I'm struggling to keep up with. It's not on my calendar, but it's, so I can only imagine, board members. But I'm also thinking that, for those events where there is a festival coming up, it would be wonderful to have like t-shirts, right, for the board members, or polos, 3-button polos, that says Danbury Public School Board of Ed member. And then, maybe across the back or across the front, it says, ask me about the academies, right? Like something so that, where we have intentional events where we go out and people are instantly can recognize you as a board member, because, in crowded spaces, sometimes that always doesn't happen, especially for new board members. And then, everyone's identified that they're a board member. So, and when you do that, then, it kind of is an invitation to invite conversation as opposed to I'm having dinner with my family tonight in a restaurant.
Mhm.
And I don't, I don't really want to talk about something that happened in the schools right now, but it's almost an invitation. Ask me about the academies. And so if you've got 2 or 3 people standing together at an event under a tent, for a DPS tent, chances are people will say, "Oh, okay, let me talk about those academies." So I think we could get creative. I don't think we have enough enough. I don't want to use the word bling, but signage and event gear and things like that. That kind of signals. Danbury Public Schools. This is their space, and here's all the things. So in addition to the brochures, maybe outfitting board members with a couple of, kind of key things that identifies them as such, and maybe invites a little bit of inquiry and, curiosity. So just a thought.
Thank you, Kara. Is that something that we could use grant dollars
Yeah,
to
I
manage the
could work.
costs?
Yep, I could work that in. So that's something that, as we're writing the next revision of bar right now, and most of it obviously is around program stuff, but and training for the teachers. But we always have a little bit of flexibility for that kind of stuff, and we could definitely work that in. It's not a big deal to make 11 or 12 polos and a couple of pop-up tents with some insignia. Diversified Printing has reached out a couple of times, even recently, and they're here for us and want to partner, and they've been very generous on our behalf. So
Great.
I could certainly get some quotes and see just how much this would cost, but I definitely think it's probably for a couple $1,000 we could really create some marketing strategy and a brand, if you will, around this.
Okay.
I think 3-4 inch buttons would be perfect. Ask me about Academy. And
Oh, there you go.
Even that, or the other thing too, if we can come, and I think we can do this, even come up with another slogan that we can give out to the kids, those buttons, and have the kids walk around with them, that they can come back to us and ask questions about the Academy.
I love that.
Like that.
Just me thinking about buttons, and long as it's a button and it's no sticking where we don't want a kid to get stuck with something they might have to pin. So we're just talking about a button.
Or
Okay.
clip.
Right,
Or
a clip.
sticker.
We'll
I'm
find a safe-
always thinking about safety. You don't want a kid to get
Yep.
stuck with a pin. But that's a
Yep.
great idea, all great ideas. And I just want to say this: as we was riding down the parade on Monday, and there was 2 ladies just sitting in these 2 areas, and one lady says, "Oh, that's the Danbury Board of Ed," and the other lady said to her, "Who is the other lady?" And she says, "I don't know. I don't know if that's the superintendent of schools." So we have to identify ourselves more. And so a great suggestion.
I'll price out some hats too.
My hair is thinning, Mike. So
All right.
All
Well,
right,
so
excellent.
we definitely have some homework to do. I'll get with my folks tomorrow first thing and start getting some pricing on all this stuff, and yeah, just start putting the pieces together. We'll see how fast we can get all this moving.
I'm size medium.
All right. So I just want to make sure if anybody else has anything else to add to that conversation, and whether you're on the committee or not, please feel free to chime in now. Just give you a second here. Any questions or thoughts on that?
Quick,
great idea.
can you give it? I just came in. Sorry. What was decided? I'm sorry.
Hi, Terry. So we've been talking about 3 things today. We've only gotten through 2, so you're here for the 3rd. The first was the Community Relations Committee, and any other board members who want to attend. We're going to schedule a meeting for Monday, June 17th at 6 p.m. in person at Beaverbrook to go over with Brent Dean, sort of talking about the academy, the academies of Danbury, and how to pitch them to people as we interact with folks in the community. And then the second thing we were talking about was really an initial conversation about creating a centralized calendar for board members so that we know what events are upcoming, and that sort of evolved into a larger conversation about how we're going to create opportunities to engage the public, including, using some visual marketing tools, like maybe a shirt that says, ask me about the academies, or some buttons that have, something similar about, you know, the direction that the district is moving in, to sort of create, those public conversations that we can participate in, and also to identify board members in those spaces.
Nice, very nice. Thank you for summary. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you for jumping on. And now we're up to the third part of this conversation. Julie, I did see your hand go up briefly. Did you have something?
Yeah, I was just gonna add on the promotional and info part. I was just gonna ask if there is like a interactive video that once people address us or reach out to us, that we can show it what to expect from the academies. Like I'm not sure if we have something like that or not.
I don't think we have a video. Kara, if you can hear us, I don't know if you want to chime in here. I know we have ample resources on the web, and there's all sorts of things we can post and have QR codes that connect, but I don't think we have a video, do we, Kara?
So we made a career, we did make a couple promotional videos. We did the one on the career fair to kind of talk about the importance of the career fair. And we do have another one that we could send out. I will double check with Brent. That was part of we made a couple of vignettes. Some of them were more geared towards like the industry folks, but I think having one geared towards the general community, parents or just in general, would be good. And one of the things that we also need to do is to conduct one of those or two of those in Spanish and Portuguese as well. So far we've made the videos, but I think I need to get someone to actually, understand the pitch and to support me in a conversation about the academies while translating. So I think that'll be important as well. So we'll work on that. That's part of, we do have the rest of the year, we still have funds around media, and then we'll be sure to build those in for the next one. Our next grant is kind of due in June. So we'll build some of that in, because I do think the videos are helpful, and it's a great reference that you can include, like, even when you just send emails out, it's just part of your signature that there's a video about the academies in there, which is nice.
Yeah. And I think the challenge right now is that because those academies are not up and running, there's parts of this that are going to be missing until we actually are engaging kids in these academy models, Julie. So I guess my question to the group would be, is there merit to sharing videos from other spaces, like Nashville, for example, in order to sort of bridge that understanding?
I mean, on my end, Kate, I think it's more like providing information, like interactive information, like what to expect from the academies, when people can expect the academies to open, who they can refer. Like those always keep blasting people on social media, even us, if we can promote it. I think that I believe that fun facts and information info session works. And I know this for a fact. People even the kids get attracted to, oh, let's see the video. Things like that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Right. So from your perspective, Julia, I just want to clarify, if I understand correctly, what you're saying is what's important isn't so much the content in that we don't necessarily need to give them all the answers, but what's helpful to folks is to be able to see sort of how the process is working.
Yes, what's
and
going on.
what's
Yes.
going on.
And
Okay.
see like, oh, anything that is important for us, that it could be important as well for the public. Like when we're gonna open, what to expect, what academies will have approved, what to expect for each academy. Things like that. And make it fun for the kids so they know how would it work on things like that. I'm not sure.
Okay, okay.
Because
Thank you,
I
Jim.
know this because we've been trying this for a while and explain things how things work, and people actually get the feedback and trying to get more information, or where to get the information, if it's a link, or like you mentioned, a QR code. They can register or see more information about, not only go to the board meetings or waiting only on us to reply on the information, but also they can get the information on their own.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying. I appreciate that.
No, thank you.
Any other thoughts before we move on to the third part of this conversation?
Just my thought, and need to sort of was just thinking as Julie was talking, as we want to get parents and students and everyone excited about the academy. Is there anything that restrict the district from saying to parents or sending out notifications saying, would you like to just come and see, not go inside the building, just see what the structure looks like? Is there anything that prevent us from doing that?
Short of just clearing it, and just determining where would they stand and what all that would look like. I don't think there would be. Kara, you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, if you're talking about the new building, so the new building is one part of it. That's the satellite campus that's being built. So that's kind of the shiny thing we could point to right now. But in terms of understanding the academies, it's really, Danbury High School. This is a high school transformation. So it starts at Danbury High School, and the new campus is a satellite campus that's going to help house, at least 2, now 3 academies. So, we have, I think it's certainly, certainly we could, when we have grand openings, if you will, or ribbon cutting ceremonies, we could do that. I don't know if we could get in there if they would appreciate it from the outside, but we certainly, Dan Donovan and Brent also, invited many times. We had lots of open houses to have come for a presentation, and each academy is going to be offering their own individual open houses soon, so that parents can come, but they were not well attended. So we were very disappointed. I think we had maybe 20 or 30 families show up total. So I know Dan was disappointed about that. He had set blasts out quite a few times. So it's really, how do we get the information across, build some excitement around it? So, but anything's possible. We just have to find a way to get the parents to the events.
Right. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, one last call. Any other thoughts on this particular part of the conversation here? Okay, we're going to move on then to the third item on the agenda. And this is something that I think, we as a community relations committee needed to talk this out with the help and advice of, our cabinet and a superintendent, to sort of figure out what is possible, and, to schedule this and figure out, like, sort of how we're going to run this. But sort of the initial granular thought, and I want to thank Mrs. Cooper for bringing this idea forward. The thought is to have a welcome back school event that weekend of September 7th or 8th, to introduce our new superintendent, and to also introduce the board, to the school community. And I think the challenge here is figuring out the size of this event, whether it's going to be standalone or if it's going to be part of, other events that are already taking place. And, sort of figuring out the logistics of, do we have any kind of, what kinds of things are we going to have at this event, and how are we going to encourage people to attend? So I kind of want to open the floor before I put any thoughts out there. I want to open the floor to other folks and see sort of what your initial reaction is to an event like this, and sort of how you would envision it happening.
Kate, real quick, I have a
Yep, go
question. Are you,
Sure.
do you have any, I think it's a great idea, first of all. I think it's perfect opportunity for us to, with all the new board members and with Kara to have an event like this. But I'm just curious to hear what your vision was of this, you thought it should look like.
I kind of pictured it as an outdoor activity, for space reasons. And something that we could invite the whole community. To me, it's more of a welcome back to school event. It would serve the function of being an introduction space for us. But my thought process is that this might be an annual thing that we do to sort of like, I know individual schools often have their own welcome back events for their buildings. And I think having something district wide to sort of bring the school community together, um, I think there's some benefit to that idea as well. And creating a space for us to be able to engage with folks. So I don't know, to answer your question, Louisa, like I don't know exactly what it looks like. I was thinking of it like everybody come with your coolers and your picnic lunches and hang out, but I don't know that that's exactly the I don't want to say image, that's not the right word, but I don't know if that's like, the format we're looking for.
So like at a location like a Hatters Park type of place, is that what you're thinking, or at one of the schools?
It would have to be Denver High School if you're gonna have that big of a property, because you have all those fields out there and they can spread out a little bit.
Right.
I think a good my recommendation would be like a convocation, what they call it. Kind of gathering and he used the football field because you have the bleachers there already. And then you can, do the introductions there, do like a quick agenda, and then have different stations for kids at different ages to get engaged, or maybe even, start like a little mini tournament at certain events, if you want to call it. And I don't know, just the thought process, just a brainstorming, but I think a convocation, you bring everybody together at the Denver High School at the stadium, and they go from there, good 30 minutes or so, introductions and all that, and break up everybody to different events.
Yeah, almost like a field day, right? Races and things like that. Yeah.
So,
Well-
oh, sorry.
Okay. My thought when I sort of, came up and was thinking about this was, again, to introduce our superintendent to the community and parents. Okay. And I originally thought that, was Danbury High School or either Rogers Park, one of our middle schools. Okay. Or whichever one. It could be the high school. And I'm looking at the form of, and we're not going to ask, I wasn't looking at it as far as asking people to bring a cooler. I'm talking about something for about 2 hours, an hour and a half. The connection as far as some other people that we can get involved in the community. And I'm talking about have light refreshments, water, or soda, chips, or something like that. And we're not asking people to pay anything, just to come, let the parents come, let the kids come, let them introduce our superintendent, introduce the board, and then we want to have the bands, and we can think of some musical groups or something else going on, a little mini program or something, and call it a day. That was my thought. So we have some other groups here that can make contact with other groups in the community that can probably bring in parents that we can't bring in. So that's my thing. And some of those parents are not familiar with things that go on in our school system. So that was my whole thought of really introducing and bringing back, and our staff, our teachers, and our students, on afternoon, Saturday, Sunday afternoon, whichever one the groups feel like is more comfortable. That was my thought in doing this.
Can I I can make a suggestion if can't see if
Mhm.
anyone's hand is up, so I apologize.
Go right ahead, Dr. Kennedy.
Okay. It could be we had a very successful family resource fair that Ann put together over at Rogers Park, and it could look something like that. So if you held a Saturday afternoon or Saturday morning, right, get people in, and people like to get in and still have the rest of their day, and especially with young kids, and you have, if you could picture kind of tents all the way around, so people would, like a 10 by 10 tent around the track at Danbury High School. And we invite any providers in the community to come out, childcare providers, preschools, anybody who offers after school tutoring, could be the people doing the sports signups, could be somebody providing music lessons, anybody who provides services for kids, could be the Y, Boy Scouts, anybody to come and have, bring, have your tent. So like a Danbury, a Danbury for Kids Day, and we have the band come, we have, maybe we have the cheerleaders come, and it's 2 hours of face painting, whatever it is, and people can see all the providers of people in the community who support kids. Plus we have our own DPS booths, and then at some point we address parents, and we have an introduction area and meet and greet area, and we kind of mix and mingle. But there's also something for the kids to do, and then there's something parents could get it, check out all the resources in Danbury for children. It might be a good space to do that. Just a thought.
Thanks, Dr. Casimiro. Other thoughts about this? So I think the thing that I'm conscious of as we're having this conversation is, what are the expenses involved here? And being mindful of what our budget constraints are, and sort of thinking about how we do this in a way that feels valuable to folks. So I like the idea, Dr. Casimiro, of bringing in providers, so that this is a resource, as a resource opportunity. I certainly don't want to step on Dr. Mead's feet at all, as far as her planning is concerned, but I see that she's not on the call at the moment, so we might have to have that conversation offline. But I like the idea of creating value by
Sure.
bringing folks together, as opposed to handing something out.
Again, another brainstorming here. Another way we can do it is also ask the athletic programs at the high school for the kids to volunteer some of their time for a couple hours to also interact with younger students. And provide them some community service time hours or something, to try to keep the cost down. And also it kind of introduces the program too for future students that go into Danbury High School.
Yeah, that's a good thought. So that we might, just like they did at the resource fair, you have tables and community organizations that the parents can visit with and have a conversation, and you have another space in which younger kids are being supervised and given enrichment activities or recreational activities to kind of allow parents a little bit of space to breathe.
Well, and I know we have
our
some partners too, and I'd have to I have to look more closely into this, but at some previous events we had face painting, I know we had a partnership for a petting zoo, so maybe some activities like that too, kind of hybrid, fun, almost, kind of carnival-y, but at the same time educational. We could look into some things like that if they would be reasonably priced.
our
Partnership.
school-based health clinics, they can set up a dental, they can, the folks who work in those clinics can set up a booth to talk about the services we provide for kids. There's a lot of opportunities there. We give out books, still have books to give out.
Yes, I was gonna say that it can bring the attention to the kids, like what it's like in the future to be such a this or as such a whatever is your desire to go within the academies. If it's nursing, we can bring a few nurses from the Danbury Public, I mean, from the hospital, Danbury Hospital, to say, I mean, their experience. I mean, they can show, oh, this is what we do, or like you said, Dr. Casimiro mentioned, also like bring the dentist, things like that. I don't know. But also, we have to be aware that many of these activities is mainly now for only the parents are just to stop to get the information, but we gotta make it interesting for the kids. Otherwise, we're never gonna get them because will go where the kids go.
That's a good point, Julie. Louisa, you had your hand up there?
Yeah, just really quick. I know a lot of these events, usually a lot of parents of the younger elementary school students are usually attending. I'm just wondering how we can get some of the middle school parents involved, as they're going into the academy, they're at the cusp of making that transition. What can we offer them to get them excited about coming to an event like this?
That's a good point as well. I mean, I
Good
think
idea.
promotion of the academy work has got to be, part of the selling point here, right? Like we're welcoming folks back, right? We're introducing them to the new leadership, but we're also saying, hey, the district's in a transformation, and this is what the new vision looks like, and all the work that the community put into the portrait of a graduate, we're trying to make that come alive in this process for the academies. So are you curious about what's going on with the academies? Are you thinking about how this is going to impact your students' career? This is your opportunity to come and have some conversations and learn more about what that model looks like.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think that should be part of the conversation. I think the idea of that video, I think is really good to have that, because people are visual, so they like to see what it's going to be like, and they like to see what it is, and hear about it. So, yeah, I think that's great. Incorporate all of that.
Julie, you have your hand up?
Yes,
Teresa, I'll
and
get to you in
just
just a moment.
adding to that is not for nothing, but we have to wash our faces on the community, because unfortunately, not everybody has a good experience with the board. I mean, the interaction with us is zero. I mean, we are seeing like boring people. As long as unfortunately we have to get into social media somehow at some point to interact. I mean, make them look like, even though yes, there's challenges, but we are same as them. We are parents. We are concerned for the education, and we want the academies to be a success for everybody, not only for the community in general. But we have to make it like a fun. I don't know how, but we have to get there as a fun group that wants to make the message go on, but not as just like, oh, this is what we do, this is what it's gonna be. I don't know. I don't know how to express it, but unfortunately, we are considered a very bored group.
Okay. Thank you for the feedback. Terry? Terry, there you
I'm
are.
sorry.
No worries.
I was thinking of a trifecta. You want to introduce Dr. Kara? Can we do a picnic at the Cardis building? And that way you get also kick in. I mean, is there any chance that they could do a mini tour there at that point, or tour picnic on the grounds? Something like that, or has that already been discussed?
It has not, and that's an interesting idea. I don't know what the logistics for that would look like because of insurance and it being an active work site and that kind of thing, but
Yeah, you wouldn't impede on Dr. Mead's area, in the other schools, but you're introducing the community to not only Kara, but to the new building, and to the Academy Extension there. And that's all I gotta say.
Thank you, Teresa. Any other thoughts on this? Welcome back to school.
Yes, Kate, I'm gonna reach out to, have a few contacts that work over at, Save the Children organization. I want to reach out to them and see what they can do, in reference to donating some, school classroom stuff into our program. I know that, I was very successful working with them, my 2 years in Iraq, and they really provided a lot of things for the kids there. And I'm wondering, I know they do have some stuff for rural America for education. So I'm going to try and figure out see if they can do anything for us.
Okay, that'd be great. Mrs. Cooper?
My only thought is if we want youth to participate and we want the parents to come because, not just those young kids, I think you have to go back to contact, because I can tell you right now over at my church, to get 25 or 30 youth to participate, you're talking about 4th, 5th, and 6th grade students, middle school students. We have youth advisors that work with these youth. And once you tell the youth that they need to be somewhere and they're representing the church, their parents are right there behind them. And if there's something that's going on like that and we want to have an affair, you have to make the contact with the adults that are dealing with the youth. So that was
Yes,
my only
absolutely.
thought.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so my takeaways from this conversation right now, and Dr. Seelig, if you caught anything that I didn't, please feel free to chime in. But what we're looking at is some sort of initial, convocation style event with maybe like 30 minutes of programming and maybe some school groups performing. We would provide some very light refreshments, and then have a space down at the track where community organizations that provide services for students could provide have like a resource fair basically, and we would be looking to use that, promote it by talking about the transformation of the school district. We would try to enlist student volunteers, older student volunteers, to help with the younger students and look at bringing some programming in for younger folks. And depending on the possibility of this, maybe even create a tour opportunity for the new Career Academy building. Obviously, it's a lot, and we've got to sit there and like kind of crunch and figure out what can we reasonably afford, and what are our initial goals. If this is going to be a yearly thing, what are our goals for year one, to try to put this together? Did I miss anything?
I think that's it. And then Teresa had the idea of possibly doing this in coordination with a Cardis tour, if it's in shape to do that at that point in August.
And to add up, Kate, I think that you guys can make like a quick survey around schools, what would parents like, and then bring it up on one of the meetings.
So Julie, what you're talking about is a survey at the actual event?
No, prior to the event, to see what would they like to see on the event.
Okay, thank you.
Sort of like a Google form with the QR. What would you like to see on this event? So maybe we can have an idea, a pre-made idea on what they want, and what they will expect.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for clarifying. So, some of these conversations are going to happen offline as we continue to sort of move through and coordinate, try to coordinate this stuff. And I will do my best to communicate out through our recording secretary, Kara Pompano, details that you need access to and, questions that may come up. So, I would ask committee members just to keep all those things in mind that we've talked about and to be prepared to kind of jump in with feedback as needed. Since planning for this is going to have to happen over the summer, when schools are not in session, we may need a meeting or two over the summer of this group to sort of pin down some details, and work on that. Any questions, any last minute thoughts that folks have about any of the things that we've talked about at tonight's meeting?
I would just suggest maybe considering not the first weekend of school that the kids are back, but maybe the next weekend. Only because if we're talking about like a Labor Day or post Labor Day, we tend to, there's usually a lot of events. We'd probably be competing with a lot of other things.
Yeah.
And
it's
it
a
would
good thought.
also give, we lose all of our staff over the summer. So a lot of people would just be walking back into the school year, and we might just get a better, product if any support staff would be helping us, would give them a week or two to actually help put this together.
So Kara, initially we were talking about the weekend of the 7th, 8th because Labor Day falls on the 2nd.
The second. Okay. So that's probably a
So,
better weekend.
I mean, we
But-
could push it back to the 14th or 15th, like if you're thinking that would be a less competitive spot.
I do personally think it's probably a better spot. I think we'd get a better turnout. I also think you'd get more DPS staff to also participate, and have a couple of weeks to help them get their stuff together. Because I'm actually envisioning that we can get our assistant principals, our directors, people who are in charge of these academies to, put a booth together and garner up some student support and, have them maybe train the kids a little bit, to train up the kids to with some talking points so that there's a student representative at each booth. And they just may appreciate having a couple weeks to get that going once the school year starts. It's a little bit hectic in the first week or so.
Okay,
Just
that's a good thought. Thank you.
And if we're gonna do this at Danbury High School, we gotta look at, make sure there's no sports events,
The other thing.
All right. Well, I just want to thank everybody who came to the meeting. Appreciate all the thoughts we put down here. Our next step again is going to be that meeting with Brent Dean on the 17th, and I welcome not only committee members, but also anybody from the board who wants to participate in that brainstorming. And that's probably going to be our last community relations meeting officially before the end of school. And we'll pick it up as we go through the summer and work on the planning for this event. All right. With that in mind, can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
I favor that motion, a motion to adjourn.
All right. Thank you, Al. May I have a second on that? I think Mrs. Cooper, you might be the only one that could do that. She's seconding. Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye.